Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is part one of our incident management training. So I'll start off by covering the overview of incident management, and then Margie in the second half of this training will walk you through the setup process. We also have Chris and Steve with us today. You'll see them in parts 2 and 3 of this training, which is a good time to mention that those training dates are available on our calendar if you haven't already registered for those. Part 2 will cover entering teacher referrals, submitting incidents from the admin side, and creating incident templates. And then part 3 will cover enterprise reports, the all incident dashboard, and discipline letters. Before getting started, we know there will be a lot of questions and we're more than happy to answer those, but we do have quite a bit to cover today. So just to be sure that we can get through all of the content within the designated hour, we'll ask everyone to hold questions for the end of the training, but feel free as the training progresses to add any questions to the chat and we will review those at the end. Margie and I are also available to stay over if questions take us past the hour. And with that said, we'll jump right in. I wanted to start by going through the main differences between log entries and incident management. So as you know, log entries are designed to document notes, interactions, or observations related to a single student. That could be counselor meetings, parent communications, behavior notes, or attendance concerns in a narrative format. Incident management was built specifically for documenting discipline and safety incidents that may involve multiple participants. So those would include offenders, victims, witnesses, and reporters. And it provides more structured data. Looking at the data structure of log entries versus incident management, as I mentioned on the previous slide, log entries are tied to a single student record and cannot natively represent group incidents or complex participant relationships. So if you have multiple students involved in an incident, you would need to create a separate log entry for each student if you are using log entries. Incident management is a bit different in that it uses a one-to-many model, which means one single incident can include multiple students and/or staff members, and then each of those students and staff can have defined roles, behaviors, actions, objects, and attributes assigned in order to more accurately model real-world incidents. You'll see teacher referrals in action in part 2 of this training, but I did want to briefly touch on the differences as you're deciding how to proceed for this school year. So with log entries, teachers can submit only a log title and a description, unless you're using the Power Pack or a community plugin to expand those capabilities, which we know many of you have been utilizing those. But on the teacher side of incident management, it's called student observations and referrals. So that's what the teachers see it as. And it's been overhauled and improved so that it closely aligns with incident management as seen on the admin side. It features full support for your codes, subcodes, multiple participants, and assigned participant roles when submitting an issue as a referral to admin. Also, teachers can report on any student within the school, not just their own students, and they can receive greater feedback on their submitted referrals. Reporting and analytics will be covered in part 3 of this training, but again, we just wanted you to have as much information as possible before deciding if you'd like to proceed with incident management for this year. As you know, log entry data is reported through basic discipline or log reports that provide student level visibility, but limited analytical value across your buildings or the district as a whole. And it does allow discipline letters to be generated using your custom object reports directly from a student's log entry screen. Incident management supports district and school level summaries via the All Incidents dashboard, which enables administrators to review incident counts by behavior, action, location, or participant type. Again, this will be covered in part 3 of this training. And there are also enterprise reports available that allow easy review of this data as well. Discipline letters will be a bit of a departure for incident management. So it uses a discipline incident letter that is run through system reports. I've included the breadcrumb here both to run the letter for students and where you would go to view the letter template. We'll add the template from PowerSchool to your environments at your request if you aren't already seeing that. Unfortunately, the letters for incident management do not have the option to use object reports, so your existing discipline letters will not be available. But our goal is to connect incident management to the report builder so that custom letters can be added there. This is a project we've discussed with our developers, and we've begun meeting to outline a rollout for that. So we'll keep districts updated, but those will not be available at the start of the year. And right now we're aiming for mid-year to make that available. Next, I wanted to touch on security, as you will want to review those settings to make sure the appropriate staff have the appropriate access. On the left, I've included the pages that you'll need to review within Configure Page Permissions. So you'll see log entry and incident management pages are grouped within the behavior section. I've included the pages from both the student side as well as the setup side that you'll want to review security access. On the right, I've included a screenshot from within a security group. So just like with log entries, you'll have the ability to select which incident types are visible and can be entered by members of each security group. The incident types displayed here are based on your individual setup in district management behavior incident types. One thing to keep in mind when reviewing this is if you also have user roles tied to your security groups, then the accessible incident types for a security group will be inherited by anyone who has that associated user role assigned to them. A nice feature with incident management that you may find helpful is the ability to create a notification email and or a notification within the SIS when teachers submit a new referral. I've included the breadcrumb if that's something you'd like to set up. On the left side, I've included screenshots of the notification setup for incidents. So the very left image, for event type, you would choose application event. And then for the application event, you would choose student added to incident. And the screenshot right next to that in the middle, that would be further down the screen. And here, if you select in-app as your delivery method, that would pop up a notification within the SIS, as you'll see in the top right image there. But the in-app delivery is really nice because it gives you the ability to use dynamic text fields. So I indicated where that is, and then you can see in the screenshot there, I added some of those dynamic text fields. There are many in there, so you can customize that to whatever would work best for you. And you can see on the right, then it pulled all of those fields right into the notification, which is really nice. You do have the option, if you select in-app notification at the very bottom of the screen, you can also send an email notification. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the dynamic text options. So it's more of a generic email, but you can turn that on or off, or you can leave it set to user preference. So whatever each staff member has set within their profile settings, whether they want emails or not, then it would be up to them if you leave it on that setting. On the right, I've included screenshots that show what the in-app notification looks like within the SIS for admin users. So you can see in the top right image, there's the red circle with a 1 on the bell icon indicating that there is one new notification. When you click on that, a slide out will pop out on the right side of your screen. As you can see there, it says notifications, and you'll get kind of a snippet of what that notification is. But if you click that little down arrow, it will expand the notification. So any of those dynamic text fields that you've added will then become available for you to see. On the right side, if you click the 3 dots, it pops up a little menu there. So you'll have the option to delete the notification when you're finished with it. You can also mark it as important to add a red exclamation point as shown, or you can mark it unread and it will display a blue dot. So those can just be used to help you manage your notifications and keep things organized. Moving along, there are a few other items that we wanted to share with you that you'll want to consider. The first is that Odoo is making significant changes to discipline reporting, which will be final August 13th and will require updates to the state portion of incident management at that time. The next is that districts must stick with either log entries or incident management for the entirety of the 26-27 school year. So due to state reporting requirements, you're unable to start the year using one method and then switch to the other. And lastly, we just wanted to note that there is no requirement to switch to incident management at this time. Another important consideration with incident management is that there is a setup piece that each district will need to complete. So the state reporting fields are automatically added to action attributes, which you'll see listed on the next slide. But the other codes and subcodes will need to be set up by district leaders since every district setup will be different. To help save you time with that process, we've created this setup quick reference, which is available in our documentation. The file is named PowerSchool Incident Management Setup. So you can check that out. And it lays out each of the codes within incident management, along with a description of what that code is indicating. And then on the right side, you'll see the equivalent field, if applicable, within log entries. So it'll just save you some time if you have that with you as you're setting up incident management. You can quickly reference where you should go in log entries to pull your codes over into incident management. I'm not going to go through all of the information on this table. I think that would be a bit overwhelming. And in the next part, Margie is actually going to walk you through setting some of these up. So I think it will make more sense in context, hearing about each one as she walks through those. But we just wanted to let you know that this resource is available. One other thing to note is that we do recommend that one person from each district complete the setup of incident management. just to prevent duplication of codes and subcodes or any confusion if there are multiple people trying to do the same thing at the same time. Again, these are the remaining incident management codes, which you'll find in the PowerSchool Incident Management Setup document in the meta documentation. At the bottom of this slide, you'll also see the breadcrumb to review your log types and add those as incident types if you wish. They're in a slightly different spot, so I just separated those at the bottom. And that's all I have for the overview portion. So I'm going to turn it over to Margie so you can see some of the setup of these codes in action. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So as you can see, and Stephanie talked to you about, I did do split screens for mine when I started mine. I think it's easiest to do. Make sure you are in district office when you are doing these, because otherwise you won't find the same information. On the step sheet that I have set out there, I do try and direct you step by step how to do this. So for starters, we're going to dive right into the setup, and I am going to district management, and then I go to behavior. And the first thing that I want to set up are my incident types. So I click on the incident types. I do have some in here, but I'll show you where I pulled them from when I looked on the log entry side. And that is under the district management, behavior, and I went to the log types. Again, the stuff that's at the bottom of my setup page, you'll see that trail in there also for you to have a guide. So incident types and log types will be primarily the same things here. You'll notice something called teacher referral, especially in your incident types. You want that if you want your teachers to be able to do any referrals. So if any districts plan on having your teachers do their referrals through here, you have to have a teacher referral in there. So keep that in mind. As I look down through these on the log types, I have everything except health. So I want to show you how to add an incident type. It's quite simple. You click on the add new incident type, and you would type in the health. A thing you could do with this is new compared to the log entries. If you're doing a start date and end date, it is not necessary. But if you were to put an end date on these in the past with log entries, if you deleted a log type, it would go away forever. With the incident types, it's nice if you put that end date in and then you go back and you want to run a query on all of the previous year's non-mandatory state reportable, for instance, you will still be able to find that information. It does not leave the system, which is really nice. And so if you didn't want an end date on that, you can simply submit this. If you wanted to move it up or down anywhere within the incident types, you can do that also. Once you have the information in here that you like, again, I tried to make it look as similar to my log types as my incident types. And I just simply submit. As you see, I do have several other things in here from previous data that I had entered. The state reportable. In many districts, you'll see when we were doing discipline for the administration to be able to enter stuff, you'd put either a caret or an asterisk at the beginning or the end. That way, you know that that is state reportable information. So the administration, the principal, the assistant, the secretary, who's ever entering this information will know that that is state reportable, and you need to do the state pages below. Again, that's a district decision. You can make that decision as to what you want out there or if you want anything at all. That's a simple one. This is an easy thing to do here for the incident types. That's primarily all you'll have to do on the log types and incident types, your dates, your start dates, end dates, and the order that you want your stuff to show on the discipline pages. Okay. The next ones will be things that will take a little bit more time. So you will find them mostly in log entry fields. You will have to go back here and find things, and I'll show you that as we move forward. Your first thing will be your action codes. So if you go to district management, behavior, it will be incident codes and subcodes. These are the particular fields you will have to fill information in. I will walk you through some of them. Keep in mind this action attributes. This all came from EMIS. It's all pre-uploaded into every district already. This is stuff we do not have to touch or change. We will touch base more on how to put the entries in part 2. So the first thing that we'll do is the action code. And if you look at the chart that Stephanie sent, it says that the action codes are under your discipline action taken in your log entries. So you will go to district management behavior, and this is found under log entry fields. So we'll click there. And you will go and find your discipline action taken. If, for instance, you do not have this up in the top section, that means it's probably hidden. So you'll need to scroll down. These are alphabetical so that you would find everything that you needed. So we're going to discipline action taken. Here you will find the ones for your district that you have put in already from previous entries. So you will want to click on action codes. You're going to see several different ones in here that have already been entered. I'm going to give you a couple different instances so that we can walk through how to add those in. This is your choice as to whether you want them all separated, or you can make them subcodes under certain things. So I want to enter one called bullying. So over here, if it's closed, you'll see that you can't see anything, but you'll get a plus mark over here to add new entries. If you click that plus, your action code, I'm going to do bullying. And here you can put this in a sort order. So if you want that to display first or at the top of your screen, you can make that a 1. There are various choices you can do here. If you wanted to start out making this just your code and adding all your codes in first, you can uncheck this radio button and you don't have to add a subcode. So on this first one, it can be for administrators only. If you don't want the teachers to have the option to add in bullying, you do not have to mark that. So on this one, I'm going to do just this code is not divided into subcodes, and then put for administrators only. Here are another few options here. Allow comment. If you allow comment, you can also make it a mandatory comment. If you wanted to put policy information in, I'll show you where I have that in on one later. You could do policy information. Several options that you can put here. As far as state reportable, this is not necessary because, again, we all know that our state reportable stuff is at the bottom of our screens. If I'm saying that wrong, please, Susan, jump in and tell me. So, okay. So I'm not going to allow a comment here. It's for bullying, and I just want the administrators to be able to do this. Once I submit this, I put it to be my display order as number 1, so it shows. And then now let's say, okay, there are some subcodes that I would like to put underneath it, like harassment, cyberbullying. So I will click on this bullying, and I will click on the plus to add a subcode. When I add that, you see it says the subcode. You can do the subcode, the short description, or the full description, or just the subcode. So if I wanted to do harassment, again, I can put it in just the top one, or I can copy it down to the other two. You can put this in a specific display order. Below your bullying, it will show up in the order. You can leave it blank and it will just fill in accordingly. Again, if you wanted to allow a comment in there, you can allow comments. And since this is just for the administrators, I would keep it consistent that way and click submit. Your start and end dates are not necessary in this. And you notice how it does go below the bullying. So I'm going to add another one. I'm going to do cyberbullying this time. Again, this one I'm going to leave blank. This is just shows a short and full description if you wanted it to. So again, it is not necessary. If you wanted to allow comments, you can check that. You can do start and end dates. It's all up to you. And then if you click the administrators, this will continue on down as many of these as you wanted to do. There is one that I really think is important that I think you need to have added in. I do have that in my notes also on the setup. It's teacher remediations. So I would do a teacher remediations because this is where the teacher is going to be able to put in specific things that they want, like if they wanted to do a lunch detention with the student, if they wanted a verbal warning, detention. There are several things that you can do here. So let's say this one I want to go ahead and add my first subcode into. I'll do my verbal warning. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put it in all three of them. If you wanted to allow a comment so that they are able to write in what they wanted to say, click the allow comment. For the teacher remediations, this is a choice. I think since it's the teacher putting the information in and the administrator will be able to view it regardless, this should just be set for teachers only. So you click your first one and click submit. I did not put an order in here, so it falls to the bottom. If I wanted to go back in there and I see my verbal warning and I'm like, oh, maybe I do want that up a little bit higher on my list, you can always go back in and change your display order on any of these and it will move them accordingly. Now, if I'm going to add a couple more in here to the teacher remediation, you click the plus sign and I want the verbal warning, the second warning. Again, you can allow a comment if you want. I'm going to add a couple more in here just to give you an idea of this one. I think is a pretty important one, and they need to, especially if you plan to allow your teachers to add any other information in. And you can allow comments, you can not allow comments, you can do a start and end date on them, up to you. And I would click submit there, and we'll do one more if they wanted to do detention. You can put this detention in all of these. You can make it just a lunch detention so that it's with the teacher. They can allow comments so that they can comment on it and know what they wanted to say within there. In part 2, you will be walked through how to add this information in on the teacher side also. So again, this is adding in an action. There is another place that you can find these actions also in your log entries. It is under district management, behavior, log entries, and consequence. So you may not only have them in your action taken, you may have some under your consequence also. They may be the same, they may be slightly different. Some may have the caret in here, and if that's the indication that you use as your district, so be it. That way your staff knows that they have to put that information in the state pages also. All right, we're going to move right on. This time we're going to do the attributes, and your attributes are found in your log entry fields under your drug-related and likely injury flags. Your drug-related flag is here. Some may have information in. When we did this training, we did not have a bunch of information. And actually, when I go down to the likely injury flag, it also did not have a lot of information. However, I did add several in here to the attribute codes. These are just to give you ideas. You don't have to use them, but these are some that came with PowerSchool information also. If you wanted to look into any of those, you can add any of these in. It is the exact same process. You would click the plus. You would add in your information. If you didn't want this to be a subcode added, you simply click that toggle of the radio button there, and it takes that information off. You can allow comments, and then when you would submit that, that would fall into the order and what you wanted it to. That one's a pretty simple one. Your next one, of course, will be your biggest and longest, I think, to take care of. That is your behavior codes, and there will be several. If I had to guess, several people will do this different ways. Where you find that in your log entry fields is under your discipline incident types. So if you scroll down here to your discipline incident type, you can see here there will be several, and I'm sure most districts have lots and lots of incident types, but we will also see that in another spot. So let me show you the other spot also. This one falls back into the very beginning, like I explained, the district management behavior. This one is under your log types, and it is your discipline, and you would hit the edit subtypes. Some districts have this quite long and quite lengthy, and I understand why we were not able to take stuff out. On this side, you can end date things and you can move things around, which is nice because your order does not change anything that you've added when you're doing incidents. So here I can see that there's a fighting and it has the caret. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to be state reportable, weapons, vandalism. Others may do asterisks. Like I said, these are just choices that you have, but I recommend you putting all of these into your behavior codes because I'm sure your admin is going to want to use those same codes over here on your incident management. So when you're adding an incident management behavior code, I'm going to just change it up and do vandalism here. It's over here. I see it. It's not in my list here. No. So I'm going to add it quickly. And I'm going to add that same caret so that when they see that category, they know that that is reportable. I'm going to make it a 1 so that I can see it closer to the top of my page. Oh, I do see it in there now. This code does not need a subcode. You can allow comments. You can make it a mandatory comment if you feel that this is needed for mandatory comments. And you can submit that. Now look, I like this because if it's already in there once, it is not going to allow you to do it twice. So that's a good feature in here. Also, I did add one into the fighting, and I want you to see you have the ability, oh shoot, I must have taken it off, to put your policy information in here, which might be nice that if you have up to 3 fights in a day or in a week, you can put a policy, whatever your policy is, that will show when that information is applied. So it's good information if you want to allow it, if you want to make them mandatory. Again, if you want start and end dates on some of this, you can do all of that at that time too. Lots of information in here. I don't know that there's many subcodes in this particular category. but you can put subcodes in if you choose to. When we go down to the participate attribute codes, these are codes. Sometimes they're in here, sometimes they're not. This one was added in. I added in the medical treatment, the offender, the victim. These are choices that you can make on what you want in the participant attribute codes. When we get down to the participant role codes, they are very specific, and there are only 4 that should be used because that's what's pulled from the teacher side and on the admin side. There are 4 particular ones that you want there. If we go down to the locations, again, your locations are found in your log entry fields under the incident location. So if I go over here to the district management, behavior, log entry fields. And again, this is incident location. These are going to be places that you find information. You can do on campus, off campus. There are several different places and choices that you can make. That is according to what your district decides to do there. Again, it is the exact same process. You would click the add button over here, and you would add in your information as to where you wanted that location to be. I do believe I did some different locations. Yes. The assembly, buses, cafeteria, these are normal things I think that people have in their locations so that you know where that information is. Those can all be added simply and easily, just like we did on the others. Self-explanatory. Okay, when we go down to the object codes, when you're doing an object code, again, these can have subcodes. I did put some subcodes in here. You may want to have that caret in here like a lot of these have, that it is state reportable. I would think it would be. But where you find that over here in the log entry fields is under your discipline weapon type. And you may have several more than these, but things that you want to add from here, again, over to your object codes. Each one of these are done the same. If you had this subcode in here, you could simply start by putting your very first one in when you did your original code, or you can add your subcodes separately by clicking the plus button and adding in a new subcode to each one of these. Again, you can allow your comments if you'd like. You do not have to do comments on everything. This next one is the one I just mentioned a minute ago, participant role codes. These are the 4 that is recommended by PowerSchool and the only 4 that you should have in here. Your offender, your victim, your witness, and your reporter. We will show you in part 2 how to use those, but these are the 2 that they say to only use in this particular code. As far as the next 3 codes are concerned, you do not have any information to pull from your log entry fields, but you can put the time codes at lunch, during class, after school, before school. You have several variations that you can add in there. That is up to you to make those decisions. Let me see what I did on this one for time codes. Oh, similar, because I tried to add some into other ones. Your duration, and again, these are all done the exact same way. You click your plus, you add in your information. Your duration, school days, calendar days, or you can pick the days. This would be for like your out of school suspensions or in school suspensions, or any time that you're putting that amount of time that you want for your kids to have. One of your last ones to do is your action change codes. This is done for if there was a reason that you put a suspension in for a kid and then you ended up not doing the full 3 days, you changed it. You can set up action change codes to be able to go back in and change that, and it will change those codes for you, and it will give you the date that you changed that information. I've not used this a lot, but I think it may be very helpful to know that if something was changed in there, instead of just going in and making the change and wondering how or why it happened. Again, your final thing that you would have in here is your action attributes. These are already set up for you through EMIS. This is not what ours looks like, obviously, but ours is set up through EMIS already. They've already pushed it into all the districts, and you will be taught how to do that in part 2, how to add that information. And rest assured, a lot of that is the exact same things that you do now at the bottom of your pages in your log entries. So it is not very hard to do. That actually concludes my setup on that part. I have one more area that I want to show you that you'll need to do. And this is so that the teachers have the availability to even see a student observation. So when you're on the district side, you'll go to district management, district setup, and this is student observation setup. This is how you give teachers access to put in an incident in PowerTeacher Pro. Otherwise, they cannot do it. You do have several choices here. You can check them all or uncheck them all. Of course, enabling student observation. This feature is enabled for obvious reasons, and this is an important one to do. If you wanted to do this one, it's like kids in the hallway or in an unauthorized area, and you wanted to be able to choose that group of kids. These are very self-explanatory. I did say a little bit more on the setup page for you so that you knew exactly what you wanted. But you can enable or disable any of these, and once you do, this is what the teachers will have access to do on the PowerTeacher Pro side. And you would click submit, and those changes would be made, and it will be visible on the teacher side. I did have a small checklist at the bottom of my validation checklist just to make sure you did your incident types, you did your incident codes, subcodes, and then we will get into the incident templates and how to add those in our later discussions. I have something at the bottom of my page that I'm just going to read to you really quickly, and you will see it also. It says PowerSchool does not typically provide a standard Excel import process for configuring incident types, codes, and subcodes. These setup items are generally created and maintained through the incident management configuration screens at the district level. Many districts end up entering the code structure manually because code setup imports are not part of the standard import manager process. That's going to be the easiest thing for you to do, is to take the time and look at the log entry fields and match them into your codes for your behavior. I believe that is all that I have in that part. I know it was a lot. I appreciate you guys' time. We did get you in under the radar, even though we started a few minutes late, so I appreciate that. We are here for questions to ask, and we'll go from there.
Anthony and I think Max had asked a question about why would a teacher put something in incident management instead of log entries. The idea was, if you decide to go with incident management for discipline issues, you're all in on incident management for discipline. You don't want to put some things in incident management for discipline, some things in log entries for discipline. It's all or nothing. You pick one or the other. That's the process you'd want to go through. So the reason you would have some of these things entered, like that teacher referrals, is because whether they are sending a referral for something state reportable, like a fight that might involve an in-school, an out-of-school suspension or something, or if they are, just a cell phone violation where they were ignoring it and they get a detention and that doesn't really need state reporting. Either way, you're going to report that in incident management. So hopefully that helps clarify the why teachers would be putting things in, and we build those teacher referral codes and subcodes in there so that the teachers can choose, you make that the only thing that's reportable to teachers so that you can kind of control what remediation items they have access to. So they can't put things like, we gave an in-school suspension to the kid. Instead, they can only say things like, we tried, to talk the kid down, we separated them, we took them out of the classroom, we gave them a correction, those kinds of things.
Thanks, Chris. That's helpful.
Yeah.
A quick question I have about that. So then when you're saying going all in on incident management, that means then that school would not even use log entries.
For discipline notes, probably not. You may still use log entries for some of the other things you might have, like principal logs or parent contact logs, for anything like that. But for discipline reporting, you're going to want to either use behavior logs or you're going to want to use incident management.
But then
Right.
this is what I'm trying to understand. Maybe if I'm looking at maybe the process then of what I would tell our staff and even myself, like, would I would want to look at the whole history of the student. So if a teacher has been making frequent phone calls or emails to a parent, they would put that on long entries because it doesn't deal with discipline. They just contacted them. So that would be in log entries. But if it deals with discipline or remediation, it'd be in the incident management. But I would want to see the whole history of that student in a timeline order. So then I know that, like, there's been all these different touch points with the student.
That's where student observations can do that. So a teacher can enter that as an observation versus a discipline referral that they're sending. And so that stuff would be in the SIS within those teacher observations, the observations that they made within Power Teacher Pro.
Okay, that sounds fair. I mean, so it seems like that as a district or as a school, I would just want to go all in on it and then say,
Right.
hey, student observations are for everything. A phone call home, whether it's positive or negative, you're contacting them for whatever reason, or any touch point you have with that student, you should put that under student observation.
Right. Teachers can make all kinds of observations. So it's not that, like, when they click the observations menu in Power Teacher Pro, there's only an option for, discipline referrals. They can choose, like, this is an observation, saw the student, you put an observation to say they saw, like, hey, a positive behavior and that student was engaged in class today or something. If they wanted to note that they can note any observations they make regardless of the type, and that's going to be, linked to that student within those observations.
Last question. This is very helpful. What is parent guardian facing?
The things that are going to be internal within the SIS on the admin educator side. And then you guys would just reach out, if you send a document or a form or something like that to the parent, and you have those add-ons or whatnot to allow for some of those communications, through the portals, then you could send those just so they have forms and documentation, but it's not going to show, like, I don't believe there's not a power tile that says, like, here's your student's discipline notes or anything like that. These aren't observations that, like, show on a report card. These are observations that are internal for staff.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry. I think I should go ahead here and explain that the all in one or the other is for Ohio reporting. So in other words, for Ohio reporting, we can only pull from either log entries or incident management. We can't pull the elementary building from one and the high school from another. We can't pull the first half of the year from one, the second half of the year from another. So the all-in is really tied to the Ohio reporting piece, if you will.
If I'm going all in on this incident management, we have our own system for tardies to school and detentions and like that. I don't know if I want that reported to the state, right? All these little detentions and things like that, because those are just like little half-hour detentions, right? And there'd be hundreds of them, depending on what that is. So like, I guess I want to make sure that people aren't afraid to put stuff in incident management because it's going to like have all these negative effects. Because I really only want to report those big pieces, right?
Correct. There's only certain discipline that are state reportable, and that would be based on the entry they do. So if the state reporting portion is not filled out, it doesn't report to the state. So you are correct. Detentions,
Okay.
what have you, would not be.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning of the training, you talked about the notifications, whether it be email or up at the icon. And so is that the same? Did I miss the understanding of from student observations and parent teacher pro, when they put a student observation in, will we get, as a building leader, will they get a notification that then needs to be addressed, like an office referral from the student observation side?
If you set up that notification, it's going to, anytime a teacher referral was submitted, it's going to notify whoever your disciplinarian for the district or the school building or whatnot, like whoever you set up to receive those notifications are going to get that notification. Otherwise, typically the administrator is going to go into that building's all incidents page. And when they go into the all incidents page, within that building, they're going to be able, within that building, they're going to be able to see like, hey, here are things that are, it'll basically show, referrals and then actual incidents. So they could go to a student and see, here's the referrals and here's the incidents, or they could go to the all incidents page and just see as a whole for the school building, here's my current referrals, here's my current like fully completed incidents. But the SIS doesn't by default, unless you set that notification up, send a notification each time a referral has been created. So that's the purpose of that notifications configuration option.
Thank you.
Sure.
So when you're talking and referring to state reporting, I think the part that maybe was a little concerning to me in the beginning of the presentation, you had mentioned that maybe some of the components aren't going to be ready in incident management or could be changed. Could you just like re-speak on that? Because if we have to choose one or the other for the year, like, why would I, as a district, want to move to incident management if it's not going to be reporting the things that are important to be reportable for state reporting? Does that make sense?
Okay, so there is no difference for state reporting between log entries and incident management. They will report the same. The changes that the state is making that aren't final until August 13th, we have to change in log entries and incident management. So we were just speaking to these changes are not in incident management yet, but they're not in log entries either, guys. Does that help? Does that make sense, Kim?
Yes, thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
Is there some setting we have to do as an EMIS person to say where we want our discipline to be pulled from if we're choosing to go to incident management?
Correct. With the release this weekend, with the student discipline record, the GD record that goes to the state, there will be a radio button. It will default to logs only because, that's typically what they're using right now. But one time you can select incident management and save it. And then the rest of the year, it will pull from incident management.
Okay, correct. I'm sorry. I missed. Where will that be when the release happens?
In the GD report when you run it.
Oh, I see what you're
state
saying.
Report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you now. Thank you very much.
No problem. You bet.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We do appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day.